Welcome to our show, IIT 2020 Impact Video Series. We invite thought leaders and innovators to discuss their approach to the future, especially in post-pandemic world. Today, I have invited an exceptional guest, Vandana Tilak. She is president of Akshaya Patra Foundation. Akshaya Patra serves midday meal every day to millions of kids in a school. Let's talk to her and understand why she decided to pick this cause and why she is so passionate about it. So Vanda, before we ask about Akshaya Patra, first of all, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about your background. You grew up in Mumbai, am I right?
Right, born and brought up Mumbai.
Awesome. So, I'm not from Mumbai, but we have a lot of audience from Mumbai. IIT Mumbai has produced some unbelievable engineers. A lot of great friends of mine are from IIT Mumbai. Your husband is also from IIT, right?
Yeah, he is. And that's what I joke that I went to IIT to meet him. That's where we first met at Mood Indigo in 1979, 19 January. And we have never looked back since.
Wow, phenomenal. So would you mind sharing with us a little bit of your journey?
Yeah, sure. I mean, where do you want me to start? I have, so I studied graphic design in college, photography and graphic design. I used to be a singer on stage. I used to sing Bollywood songs. My mother was a stage performer, and she's actually has a world record and it's in the Limca records for having 5,000 shows in her lifetime, and this is all over India. So I performed in about probably 800 shows before I got married and came here. And Ravi and we got married in '83. We moved to Los Angeles, and we're settled here for 37 years now. And in that 37 years, every few years, 3-4 years, I have been changing. So I'm a career vocationist, as you can say. I've been changing from real estate to photography to filmmaking to working in the company, in the aluminum family firm that we have, Almex USA. And it's been a learning experience. So everything that I learned, from the graphic design, from the arts to photography to managing a company to setting up the finances for the company to administration, all of those things were actually mini MBAs to get me to where I am today. And so it has worked. And wherever there is a need, every year I go for a class at HBS to just brush up on a few things.
So Vanna, can I say that you are a very creative person and you grew up in a household where an artist being highly rewarded?
Yeah. I am, and on the other side, my father was an executive in Godrej and Boys, and he ran the process equipment division. He worked with ISRO and built all these amazing engines for the missiles that we had created, that ISRO had created. And so there is a blend of both, of being fair and good leadership skills that I didn't get to see firsthand, but I always, used to see how his quiet demeanor, when things got really rough, he was always the calmest person in the room.
Oh, that's good. That's great. So you came to US almost 30 years ago, you mentioned, 37 years ago?
Yeah.
And you are with Akshaya Patra for almost 10 years now.
I think 8 years. We did our first event in Los Angeles in 2012, and we skipped one, and then 15 later we started doing every year we had an annual event for a fundraiser.
So why Akshaya Patra? There are so many initiatives, there are so many opportunities to help.
I agree with you. I mean, there were opportunities, and I was working with other organizations before friends of ours said, "Well, please help," and we did. Both Ravi and I believed in giving back to India and in whichever way and form. But I think Akshay Patra found me rather than me finding Akshay Patra. So it was quite by accident that I was at an event where Narayan Murthy ji was speaking, and he was doing a road show at that time, city to city, and it was, of course, him making an appeal, and we couldn't resist. So we donated, and then he was saying, we went on stage, they called us and all that, and then said, why don't you help us? Because I said, you are not in Maharashtra, please set up kitchens there. I've been working in rural Adivasi Maharashtra. There is a big need over there. And so they said, if you know somebody there in the administration, or you can help us, because it's a public-private partnership. So I did, and I just fell in love with the cause. It's just so natural for any person who has children or who has been to India or born and brought up there to get attracted very organically to what we do.
I completely agree with you. And my brother is pretty involved in India, and we keep talking about it. So children's education is the biggest cause, in my opinion. We are all product of our environment. And I and 500,000 of IITians can echo that. We are here because of the education, because we got great environment, because we get the great people really supported us. Otherwise, we didn't have a shot.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm so glad you are working on it. So I have a lot of questions for you, but before I jump to a little complex question is, do you find it satisfying? The work you do?
I do find it satisfying. I do. I don't know if you know Ayurveda, but there are, you have your own constitutions, as Ayurveda says. And I studied that too. I used to practice Ayurveda.
Oh, wow.
And so Ayurveda, you know what your constitution is, and your mind and your body.
Pitta and one of those, right?
Yeah. So I'm a Vata and Pitta both, which Vata makes me crave for new experiences all the time. And the Pitta in me is the overachiever that keeps driving me and making me, make plans and set up timelines and create something that will have some longevity and show something that you achieve every day. Pitta people are typically high achievers. They're the type A's, as we can call it. So I'm a blend of that, and knowing myself, I that was another reason, actually, when I was working in Almex. I said, I really am tired of running a company that with phenomenal technology that we have. We are one among 6 in the world, and we build process equipment for aerospace aluminum alloys. And after about 7-8 years of doing that, I said, okay, I'm tired. And from there, I went from aluminum to filmmaking. That's how much I was, it has nothing to do with the business. It's just that I am, programmed to be a certain way. You respect that and you honor that, and you figure that if this is how you are, then make sure that it doesn't disrupt everybody's lives if you suddenly go from here to there.
Absolutely.
In 1 week. So that's how I went into Ayurveda, and that's part of me that actually helps to make sure that. But overall, this work in Akshaya Patra has given me the perfect blend of everything, of having my creative side come out with all the marketing things that we do, the events that we do, helped me to pivot from in-person to online events this year. Raise money, which is what my Pitta side says. Don't just do it, monetize your art. And it's a good blend. So it keeps me on my toes, keeps changing all the time. And I'm happy here.
So how many meals do you serve? This is important for our audience to know that the work you are doing.
Sure. Currently, we serve 1.8 million meals every day. And during COVID, we are serving happiness boxes or happiness kits that contain rations for the child for 30 days. So whenever schools begin, we will go back to where we were.
Such a novel work you are doing. In fact, there's another friend of mine. He has a nonprofit called FEA India. They're doing phenomenal work. Freedom Employability FEA. I forgot the acronym for A, but he's really helping kids learn softer skills and even communication so they can do better in their life. And they track some of these things, and they found income level goes from X to 3X, which is phenomenal. So you are impacting their life forever, which is a great thing in my opinion. That's really cool. So since the big challenge we have today, as you know, the word, since you talk about even pandemic, how it has impacted you in terms of fundraising as well as the impact on the people?
Well, in India, of course, we are all aware of this, right? That schools are closed. And this year, as soon as the lockdown started, it was 2 weeks before schools were officially supposed to close. And they closed early, and they are still not open. There are talks about some governments starting some schools. First, they're going to start colleges, then schools. But the background to all this is that the children who attend government schools, there are 120 million children in government schools in India. And this goes all the way from first grade all the way to high school. So these children are required to be given a meal according to the Supreme Court decision in the year 2000, that they should be given a meal because they cannot focus in class. These are families that subsist on $1.50 a day. It's not enough. They are parents who are migrant workers and daily wagers who cannot afford more than one meal. And so these are the children that attend government schools. And for us, it meant that, first of all, we knew that it's a fact that when schools are closed during summer vacation, during Diwali time, during school holidays, that they were not eating. So when they come back from school, from home, when they come back after the holidays, you see that they have lost weight. They have not been eating. 85% of the children that attend our schools, this is the only meal that they get. So now you're talking about not just children getting a meal at home, but the parents not being able to give anything because the entire family is starving. So we have been trying to ensure at least some of the ration boxes or hot meals as much as we can. But during a COVID pandemic, you have to understand that the supply chain, the distribution, everything is disrupted. We had a place where we could send our meals to. That no longer was there. We had a system. We had finances that the government was giving 11 cents a meal. We were raising 9 cents. All that was gone. So how do you make sure that we find our beneficiaries in the first place? They have not gone back to their villages, and they are there and they are available. The supply chain is there. The need is there, and we are able to distribute it. So in spite of all that, we have given about 100. We have supplied about 100 million meals so far to children and their families.
Wow. So when you talk about children's nutrition, do you even provide services like testing, measuring how their health is doing, how they're performing in the class, or you are only focused on providing meals?
We do have quite a few studies. We are now working on a longitudinal study for finding out the impact of our meals. Because remember, this is one meal in the whole day. So it's only 30% of what the child needs. So we really don't know whether this child, when he goes home, whether they get a meal or they don't get a meal because it's a girl, or whatever the circumstances are, whatever that is, we do not know that. But even if you know that, you cannot credit Akshaya Patra's meal as saying, oh, we did this. But overall, when we did an overall view, Harvard and Nielsen did impact studies for Akshaya Patra. And they found that after the enrollment, the attendance record went up
Wow.
when Akshaya Patra meals were served in school. More girls attended school. And there is a big difference when girls attend school, is because when girls attend school and they stay in school, they tend to want to study more. They want to further educate in skills or in higher education or college. Then they want to work after they get that education. They tend to get married later. They tend to have fewer kids. And most importantly, they tend to educate their own children. So what takes about 10 years to break a cycle of poverty for a family now takes, what used to take 40 years now takes 10
10
years.
years.
So immediately, that in one generation, you are seeing the difference that happens.
No, completely. I understand one, and I have seen it myself. So, can I ask a difficult question?
Sure.
Question is, you and me both are US citizens, and I do see a lot of challenges right here, right in front of us, where we can help or we should help. And I always see that we are not able to do what we can. So what are the challenges? Because you are more at the deeper level, you are more engaged. What is really the challenge? Why we are not able to impact the people here?
Lots of different things. First of all, I think the public school system in the U.S. Pretty much around the world. If it's not a newer system, it's a broken system.
Mm-hmm.
The education system, the children that attend those our public schools, the kind of nutrition that they should be getting. They are not getting the right nutrition. It's very calorie dense foods, but not with the right nutrients that the child should get. And it's also, unfortunately, it's what the government system has been created, right? And create mass number of meals without and that are as cheap as possible. And so I always say, when public school systems can can help companies get higher PR branding or higher profiles.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance that they might improve. On the other hand, there used to be 14 million children in America that went to bed hungry, that are
Wow.
starving.
Wow.
And now
14
with the
million.
COVID pandemic, 14 million children. And now with the pandemic, with jobs lost, parents losing their homes, there are more children than 14 million that are going to bed hungry.
So what do
That's
you
the
see
state
as
of
a challenge for IITians or our audience? What can we do as a community to help? Because we all want to help, and we have contributed tremendously to American economy. We have created thousands of multi-billion-dollar organizations, and we are working along with every single citizen of not only US, globally. And I believe most of us want to help. What can we do?
First of all, find the right cause. Find the right cause. I'm seeing on my Facebook feeds, there are n number of organizations that are feeding children. Look at them, review them, just as much as you would invest in a business before you buy something. Same thing. They sometimes they're doing phenomenal work. Find those organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Lot of the students in the government school systems, that's the only meal they get. So respect the fact that they are getting this food in the dignity of a school environment. They are not standing in a homeless shelter. They are not standing by the wayside getting meals. Providing meals in school is the most smartest way that you can possibly feed a child. The other thing is that, first of all, do your homework, but secondly, try to do it within your own neighborhood. If you want to give back to India, again, Akshaya Patra is always there. We have scaled from 1,500 meals to 1.8 million meals. In the next 5-10 years, we'll be at 5 million children every day. We
Wow.
know how to scale. And that blueprint is available for anybody to take and use anywhere. So we don't have any copyright, any patents on any of the processes or the equipment or technologies, or know-how, nothing. Use it and use it freely and take advantage of something that's already out there. The entrepreneur in me wants to start a kitchen in the US, in Los Angeles. I know if I drive 5 miles east of here, I will be in a neighborhood where there will be children that would love to get a hot meal. So, as the world turns and my need to pivot and do new things, just might do that.
No, one, I completely agree with you. And this is one thing always, we all want to give back. And a lot of time we give back because we see somebody is doing a great job. So the reason I'm bringing this point up is it's not about our group or our community is only going to support causes of India. We are here. We are working hard. We wanted to support every single organization if we can contribute. So message to all of our audiences, if you have some interesting organizations, some really amazing organization doing great job, please reach out to us, send me a note, comment my post, because we are all here to help. We want to give back. Ramesh Wadhwani has contributed half of his wealth. Desh Pandey is very actively involved in Akshaya Patra, and he's doing phenomenal work through his foundation. Ajay is doing phenomenal work. So we have a lot of people who are there, and we want to help. So coming back to Akshaya Patra, this question always baffles me. When we talk about midday program, meal program in America, and the quality of food, we live in the wealthiest nation in the world. What can we do at the policymaker level? What can we do to make this change happen? Do you have some ideas, suggestions?
Again, I'll give you an answer that's based on Ayurveda. Ayurveda always looks at the root cause of everything. Even if you say, here is where it hurts, Ayurveda will say, wait, let me look at all your systems and figure out where that comes from. The same thing when you want to test out an education system or you want to test out the feeding system that's in our public schools, first look at the root cause of why this happened. It's always the cheapest food is never the best food. A McDonald's for $2 versus $2 of vegetables, the calories are lower, but nutritionally much higher. And growing children need both. They need nutrition as well as dense calories for them to thrive. They need all the nutrients, the proteins that they need, and that's completely missing in the American diet, for so to say, not just children but for adults too. So obesity is an issue, diabetes is an issue, all these things that are happening. It's called obesity is the new form of hunger in the US. Yeah. And around the world, and it's happening in India also. And I think education is the biggest need for the day on educating people what healthy foods look like. A lot of times, not a lot of times, but you will find generally in all the low income neighborhoods, there are no good grocery stores. They avoid those places because of many different reasons. But it should be available. Good food should be available in our neighborhoods. There should be a good distribution system for that. A lot of food is wasted around the world. This is not a shortage issue. This is a distribution issue.
And I completely agree with that. Yeah. I'm seeing it all the time.
We see it all the time, and wasting food is the worst thing that you can possibly do. It's not just the food that's on your plate, it's all the entire system that was created to bring it to your plate, from thinking about it, to growing it and to transport it, to bring it to the store and to have it on your plate. And by the time it comes to your house and there are things that you don't eat and you throw away, or even fruits and vegetables you never consume, they just they rot away in your house. A lot of these things can be avoided. And that's what we were doing at our house, and we figured it was so difficult. I told my husband, let's reduce our carbon footprint. I'm not buying these things. Anything that's packaged in a plastic carton, I'm not buying. And I used to tell the managers on those stores, and they would say, because my shopping cart is always 90% full of vegetables and all these different things. And they used to ask me, do you juice all these things? I said, no, we actually cook them and we eat them. And so he said, did you find anything wrong? I said, yeah, there's a lot of green foods that are wrapped in plastic. Do you not recognize the irony in all of this? That one thing actually feeds you, the other thing actually kills things in the ocean and around the world. So a lot of these different things. One thing I would, there's an amazing documentary called My Octopus Teacher. It's a wonderful movie.
Teacher. Yeah.
My Octopus Teacher. It's literally an octopus that has taught me a lot of things. And I'm not going to say more about it, but it's a must see. It's how animals in the environment in the wild actually have a lot of intelligence that we never ever recognize that they.
Is it on Netflix?
They not only learn how to survive. Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's on Netflix. But not just recognize that they don't just survive, but the octopus is actually playing with the fish. He just throws his tentacles up and makes sure that the fish are going in all different directions, and then he loses his thought process and he goes and does something else. It's an amazing movie. Yeah.
I will definitely check it out. And there are several movies around the food I've seen, phenomenal movies. So there is a movie called Knife Over Fork. I think it's on Netflix.
Knives Over Fork.
Knives Over Forks, yeah. So phenomenal movies. But, personally, I am very passionate about the food innovation. I truly believe that we don't have enough, or we are not prepared to feed 3 billion more future citizens of the earth. And sustainability is going to be bigger and bigger issue. So what can we do today so we don't deal with that after 30 years or 20 years? So there are a lot of challenges related to food we have to work on. I don't have the right answer, but everybody's looking for the right answers. And that is for our audience to think about it. What kind of opportunities are there with that? Vandana and me both believe we need to work on sustainability. We need to work on the quality of food we eat. We need to work on creating better world for our children's, especially the children who are in underprivileged environment where they have lunch is the only meal they receive. There are a lot of work we can do there. So when that changing to topic a little bit more about your personal side. So you mentioned that you are a singer, professionally trained singer. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So my gharana is Bollywood, and I grew up in a home where my mother was a master's in music, and she started her own. It used to be there was no Hindi music that was available to people. This is before television started, and so she started her own orchestra with musicians, sound system, lights, and the whole thing. And she used to be traveling by bus to the remotest places in Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, all over India. And I remember she used to have about 30 shows in a month, many times.
30 shows.
Very often. 30 shows a month. Some companies would say, oh, you want your event, your program, and she would have 3 performances in the same theater for 3 days so that all 9,000 employees could come and watch. Wow. So this was something that we did. We grew up with that. I studied with some phenomenal teachers, Basantrao Desai, with C. Ramchandra, you must have heard that name, with K. Mahavir, and a few other teachers that, they taught everything from spiritual music to ghazals to Bollywood. I mean, it was just an amazing time to be able to learn music from such beautiful people. You know, Sri Ramchandra was perhaps the strictest teacher I've ever had. Uh, he was he was a perfectionist, and until you got that particular thing out of your singing, he was not ready to move on. So one song would really take a month to learn,
That's
and
so funny.
so I studied that.
You're talking about teacher. That reminds me of my professor in IIT, Professor R.K. Mittal. He taught us plates and, no, actually, he taught us composites. And in the class, he gave us a project. I was the only one who did a phenomenal work. I created hardbound 40-page or 50-page report on these composites and how we should develop and how the aeroplane structure is, all of that. And he said, "Oh, Sanjiv, this is brilliant work." And then finally in the exam, I got B grade. So, and that was the highest grade in the class, by the way. So, you know, I cannot say
Nice.
anything. And in 2007, I met him. He was here in US. And I asked him, I didn't have the courage at that time. So in 2007, I had a courage. So he says, "Sir, I did so well. You did extremely, you praised me a lot. Why be great?" You know what he said? He said, "I expect better. I expected better from you." And that become my mantra after that. When the people put trust in you, when they see what you don't see in yourself, it's just phenomenal feeling. Such a phenomenal feeling. I still remember he passed away, but whenever somebody talks about the teacher, he is my teacher. He taught me more than applied mechanics. He taught me life lesson, which is so profound. Sorry. Thank you for reminding me.
It is true that we all have one strict teacher in our lives, whether it's our parent, whether it's whoever it is. They come in different forms, right?
Yeah.
They challenge us to do better, and that challenge at that time, we feel like, you know, this person is being very mean to us, but that's not true. They are there for a reason at the right time. I have always said that to anyone who care to listen, is that you get the problems that you know that you can solve. That you are ready to solve. So if you get very big problems, know that you are awesome.
Cool. So, you know, since you have done Ayurveda, I'm going to ask a different question. I was not planning to ask. So question is, let's talk about Western and Eastern health and the way we treat patients and the way we treat basically sick care or health care. So what's your take on that? If you compare Western and Eastern philosophy, what is the challenge?
I think the challenge is integration. American or Western medicine has done phenomenal strides, you know, probably in the last 50 years. And the life-saving technologies that they have, the medicines, the know-how that we have, all of that is just amazing. And I was just reading about this young man who was rescued, and he did not have, he was dead for 45 minutes before they revived him with a special machine that was used. But I also feel like Ayurveda is 5,000 years old, and there is definitely a science. It's there that can help us not just in curing things, but in prevention. And you don't need to cure something if you could prevent something in the first place. So you do have the know-how, texts that were transcribed from people who generation after generation gave information. They looked around them, looked at what was there in nature, and figured out how the universe had a cure. There was a way of diagnosing disease, there was a way of curing disease, but in the first place, also a way of addressing what your constitution was and then living a balanced life, whether it was eating, lifestyle, thought processes, whatever that was. There is a system and it still applies to this day. And I think that there has to be some kind of integration. A lot of the major um, uh, health providers in the US are now recognizing acupuncture, they are recognizing Ayurveda. They have some form of it in a small way in that's there. But there's a lot that each of them can learn from each other.
So
Definitely.
especially at this COVID time, and everybody is thinking about immunity and how to develop that immunity so that we don't get sick. So what do you suggest?
Immunity is generally a function of what you do and don't do. So first of all, know your constitution. The same thing does not apply to everybody. For a Vata person and a Kapha person, they generally their constitutions are slightly opposite to each other. So if I say I benefit a lot by eating ghee, the Kapha person should not be eating it in the same quantity. So it's even if you are in the same family, you need to know what the constitution of each of your family members is and create the food and the diet for each of them. Doesn't mean that you have to completely create a different meal for them, but there has to be some understanding of that. And you kind of understand once you know that the lifestyle, how long you work. For me, for a Vata person, you need some breaks in between. For a Pitta person, you need to have some. So, but most importantly, whatever you do in Ayurveda, if you want immunity, you need to live according to your constitution, but also do everything in a balanced form. Don't do extremes. There is a prakriti, which is our constitution, and vikruti, which is when it's out of balance. But most of the time what we do is we do pratnyaparat, which is a crime against wisdom, which means that we know this is not right for us, we do it anyways. So whatever it is.
It's like drinking tea or coffee, or you're talking about something else?
You can drink tea or coffee. That's what Ayurveda says. There's nothing wrong with doing anything. It's just that do it in a balanced manner and know what it does for your body, not for the person next to you.
Yeah. No, I was just joking, but I know what you mean. It's health is so important, and I'm learning it a lot myself. And what I'm realizing it is, as we become more and more aware of our body tells you what is right or wrong. Most of the time we don't pay attention, and when we don't pay attention, these challenges happen. So this is really cool. So you are an expert of Ayurveda. You are an expert of, you're a musician, singer, and you are working in nonprofit where you're feeding 2 million plus kids every single day. How do you manage your time? How do you manage your life?
Both my kids are married. That's the secret. They're both married. They have wonderful spouses. One of them has two girls. So I have two grandkids. So I have my entertainment cut out for me every weekend. And I think when I was younger, this is something that I had done with great intention. When I was 13 and I was traveling around with my mother on her shows and really getting tired of eating dinner at 3 a.m. in the morning, getting on the bus or showing up at school at 7 a.m. and falling asleep in class. That's what my teachers still remember. Trying to keep Vandana awake is not easy. I was still in the top 10 in my class, but still. Wow. It was with great intention that I had decided that when I get married, I'm going to stay home with the kids. And I think that was the most rewarding thing that I have ever done, is because when your kids are little, you literally grow up with them. You are there with them, and when they were 5, you were 5, and you are just awed by the innocence of the whole world opening up to them and them figuring out things and discovering things. And so I'm figuring the same thing with my granddaughters now. One is 4 and she'll be 5, and one is 2. So
Very
you
cool.
can pick me at whatever age I am right now.
So, Vandana, you are a women leader and you are an example for a lot of women. What lesson do you give them, or what suggestion you give them? Because today, if you look at it, there is a huge gender diversity problem we have in the industry, especially in the tech world where I am in. Huge challenges, and we are, I mean, based on what I know, nobody is stopping them, but maybe we are not doing something which we should be doing, and what women should do to excel in today's world. So the question is, what can we do for gender diversity?
Well, hire more women, first of all. They are very smart. If women ran the world, and you see all the countries that are being run by women, they're not too shabby. They're doing pretty well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's one. Yeah. And generally, even in this last election, other than the Biden and Harris ticket that I voted for, I literally looked up all the women in the local and state levels, and I looked them up, and they seemed great people. And I just voted by gender. I said, this time, let me see how that works out. And they got into office, and I'm very eager to see. But supporting women just does not mean them supporting them in business. I think supporting women at home has to come first. Supporting our daughters and our mothers, that knowing our sisters, knowing that they were in your position at one time, and there were definitely some things they were not able to do for you, or you are not able to do for your children, or you can do for the. So supporting women in your home, in your community, is as important for giving them their self-worth, for making sure that they feel respected, that they feel dignified. Speaking up, in the Indian culture especially, this is not something that we do very often.
Mhm.
But I would be very proud of my granddaughters if they did nothing else except learn how to speak up for themselves. And whatever they do, they will be fine. So yeah, I mean, women are generally are good leaders, they are good administrators, and they just need that little bit of push sometimes.
Vandana, I completely echo with you on that. I personally feel same way. Women are phenomenal, and they bring very, very essential element to any organization, which is empathy. As a male, we are not trained, and somebody explained me with the level of our DNA mix and how we grew up in centuries. The job of the male was going and hunting or bringing the food home. So it's a very different upbringing we always have. But empathy is so important. In the today's world, we are not going and hunting and killing animals, or we are not doing the things we used to do. The world has changed. The challenge I find personally is most women, they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe that they can do this. And that is, I believe, that is the biggest challenge I see. And I don't know what we can do in my organization itself. There are a lot of women and phenomenal. But I always feel they somehow not full acting at their full potential.
Well, challenge them, you will be very surprised.
Well,
Women,
I challenged one, she quit a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know.
well, I would love to meet these women who are in organizations, and be able to interact with them. I think the most important thing for women is to be authentic. They're always trying to live up to somebody else's image of them, whether they are colleagues, workers, family members, or whatever. And that's most difficult for women. Know this, that this is not over one generation. This is over millions of years that women have, gotten a different treatment than men in the family. And it's ingrained in us. that this is how it happens. I am right now, I was just telling my husband just 2 days ago, it's been since January 2018 that I became CEO, and I was a director before that. And I said, in my 50s, did you ever think that I was going to be a CEO? I was not a manager. I was not anything. And suddenly the first title I get outside of my company, my own family firm, was a CEO. I must have done something different than anything that anybody else could have said. She said no. Women have this natural tendency to be leaders. They lead at home, but when they step outside the house, there is an environment that's quite claustrophobic, and it needs to go away. So yeah, I mean, if you challenge somebody and she leaves, just know that she's going to be challenged somewhere else, and she will evolve, she will grow, because the challenges we get are what we have been ready for. Whether you're a 4-year-old, the problem that you get in doing simple addition, and you get as a person in your 60s or 50s, if you get a challenge that you should have solved a long time ago, it's been a long time coming. So
Vanna, all I can say it is what I find it is they settle for less. And the challenge is you can't do that for them. You can only do that for yourself. We can definitely encourage. So where I'm going with that is people like you, especially women like you, have a huge responsibility where you have to share with them that they are equal to all of us. Yes, word is not going to be fair. Word is never fair. That's the reality of life. But that doesn't mean that we don't believe in ourselves. They deserve better. They can do so many things, phenomenal things. They've done it. I mean, look at putting the man on the moon to Mars now. Women are everywhere. They are doing phenomenal work. They're amazing engineers. They are amazing artists. They're better singers than males for sure. It's unbelievable. You have done what, 600 shows you mentioned? 300 or 600 shows?
I think 800.
800 shows you have done personally. I mean, that's such a phenomenal story.
Yeah,
you
but
must
know
have
this.
learned so many things in those 800 shows, that the moving pieces, the allied, the speaker is not working, the audience are crazy. It's like one lesson after the other. Is that the reason you are so good?
Well, you're right. I just want to correct that one thing that you were saying about women not settling for less. I don't think it has anything to do with gender. Men do that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think what also happens is that we don't connect things to our highest values. So what my highest values right now are with Akshaya Patra, with doing this. If you had asked me in my 30s, what is your highest value? I would have said children. And you would said, great, how are you going to monetize that? I said, I don't know, want to. I am getting my rewards. These are memories of lifetimes. To me, that is more valuable than getting a check. But right now, I will say that, yes, I care for children, but this is how I'm going to take care of my children. There are 1.8 million of them in India that I need to get up and bounce out of bed for, and I do. So if I don't connect something to my highest values, for example, if I'm trying to do something, here are cards that I have been writing to the donors. I wrote about 100 so far, right? So every time I'm sitting there, I'll say every day I'm going to write 10 thank you cards because I know them and I'm writing them. And after a while, it gets tedious, right? After 5 days, every day you're writing. I don't connect it to my highest values. Like I say, if I don't write this card, this person will not feel appreciated. And how does that make me a better leader? If I don't know how to thank someone, if I don't know how to thank a volunteer, or I don't know how to thank somebody who gave $20 versus a guy who gave $1 million, they're all the same. They give from their heart. And if you don't recognize that, you don't connect it to your highest values, I'm not doing my job. So every single time that something becomes tedious, it becomes boring, and it says that, why should I'm too good for this job? cooking. Men don't like to do that for that same reason. It's grunt work. If you don't connect it to your highest values, it look up those beautiful recipes and it stirs up your creativity, and you figure out that something I created actually came out good. Um, and you connect it to how does it make me a better business leader by okay, so let me cook up this recipe for the 7075 aluminum alloy that my husband, he's a metallurgist, can think of. It if you don't connect those two, you are going to keep them in two separate silos and you'll never get it. So if you want to really know what it is, and then of course, there are challenges, look at the benefits of solving them.
No, so true. In fact, it's funny. I learned cooking in last 1.5 years. I don't cook often, but I love cooking. Of course, not my kids doesn't like my cooking because they're not a fan of Indian food, but I love it. My friends love it, so I'm happy. Every day, and when when I make food, it's like it's very divine experience to me. It's not cooking; it's fun. I'll play some music. I'm just cooking, and every time it's turn out something else, but it's fun.
Yeah, no, it is fun. And you're right. When you're growing up and you are singing in 800 shows, you are 13 years old or 14 years old, and you're the person who runs the sound system says, hey, roll up all the cables, pick up these speakers, do all these things. So you're like an intern who never got paid for 5, 6, 10 years. And then you are also hiring people, you're firing people, you learned HR, you learned sound systems and all these different things. And these are experiences of a lifetime, to be able to have a sheltered life, but at the same time be exposed to all these things.
Well, I can talk to you for hours. It's just such a phenomenal conversation. I had so much fun. Before I thank you, do you have any message for our audience? Anything you would like to ask?
Well, my ask is always the same. Look up our website. It's foodforeducation.org. We have served 3.5 billion meals so far. There is a history to this organization. We have never missed a day in a child's life. When the school is open, they are assured that there will be a meal in school. And hunger is a part of a life, right? You can be anywhere. You can be from any economic level, and hunger is guaranteed. So keep aside something for people who don't have it.
Thank you. Vandana, thank you very much. So I've learned a lot of things today. One big thing I learned about is we all have Prakriti and our constitution. And based on that, if we eat or consume things, it's going to be better for us. Number 2 is believing in ourselves and share the same message with our kids and people around us. So once they start believing in themselves, the world can change. And number 3 is giving back. Whatever ways, whatever means, whoever you can find, go and help those people. Once again, Vandana, thank you very much for your time. I can't thank you enough. Thanks for supporting IIT alumni community globally. I'm Sanjiv Goyal, Conference Chair of IIT2020, Pan IIT USA's mega virtual event. Join us, co-invent and co-define paradigms for this new world. Please register at IIT2020.org. Our event is open to all. Please join us. Thank you.